20-year-old Keeley Bunker, she was dead. Her black leggings and underwear had been pushed down, and they were caught on her sneakers.
The night out that was meant to be fun ended in tragedy, claiming the life of a 20-year-old woman with her whole future ahead. On the evening of September 18, 2019, the family of Keeley experienced a heartbreak that no one should ever endure. It's all about the murder of their daughter. And the most tragic part? She had just graduated from university, full of hope, ready to start her career. But here's the thing, this wasn't some random act of violence. It wasn't a stranger lurking in the shadows. It was someone Keeley trusted, someone who promised to walk her home safely. Even now, when you hear this, it's hard not to ask how something like this could happen. To really understand the depth of this story, you have to know who Keeley was before she was murdered, the kind of friends she kept, her lifestyle, and the chain of events that led to her tragic death. Today, we're going to reveal the chilling story of Keeley Bunker, a young woman whose trust in the wrong person would cost her everything, and a night of celebration that would turn into a nightmare no one could have predicted. To really understand what led to the tragic death of Keeley, you first need to know who she was. Keeley Bunker was just 20 years old, a young woman full of life, energy, and dreams. She wasn't just another face in Tamworth. She was known for her warm smile, bubbly personality, and the way she cared about everyone around her. She had recently graduated from university, and like many fresh graduates, she was full of hope. A new chapter, a career to start, adventures to be had. Her future was just beginning. In fact, on the very day she met her horrific death, Keeley was preparing to go for an interview for an assistant teacher position, one of the first steps toward her career and her dreams. It's hard not to imagine what she had planned. Maybe a first job, maybe travel, or simply enjoying her youth. And that makes the tragedy even harder to process. But Keeley wasn't just a graduate with dreams. She was a friend, loyal, trusting, and kind. The kind of person who wanted to see the best in people, even when life had already dealt her hard blows. Her family had already endured loss, including the passing of her older sister a year before. And yet, Keeley kept going. She kept smiling. She kept living. Even I, when I read about her life, couldn't help but wonder, how could someone so full of promise, so kind and trusting, become the victim of such a terrible crime? To understand how this happened, we need to take a closer look at the people around her, the friends she trusted, the lifestyle she led, and the choices made that fateful night. Because Keeley's story isn't just about her death, it's about trust, betrayal, and a single night that changed everything. On the evening of September 18, 2019, Keeley Bunker set out with her friends for a night she thought would be just another fun evening. She was excited, smiling, full of energy, and like many young people her age, she wanted to escape for a few hours and just enjoy life. The group's destination? Birmingham, to see rising British rapper H perform live. The concert was loud, electric, and full of energy, exactly the kind of night Keeley loved. Phones were raised, music pulsed through the crowd, and the city streets outside were alive with color and light. Keeley was with her childhood friend Wesley Streete. They weren't very close, but like some friendships from childhood, they shared a deep connection that lasted years. She had even invited Wesley to her 20th birthday celebration after the show, showing how much she valued his company. Keeley was so excited about the concert that 2 days before the show, she tweeted, "The only thing keeping me going is seeing H on Wednesday. Hopefully he will see me and we'll get married." At the time, she never imagined that the person walking beside her could later betray her in the most unimaginable way. After the concert, the friends decided to keep the night going at Snob's nightclub, a popular spot in Birmingham for dancing, laughter, and fun. Keeley laughed, danced, and took selfies with her friends, soaking in every moment. It was her 20th birthday, and she was thrilled to be celebrating it, surrounded by people she cared about. She had even invited Wesley, her childhood friend, to join the celebration after the show, a small gesture that showed how much she valued him. As the night drew to a close, Keeley told her friends something many of us might say, "Don't worry, Wes will walk me home." At that moment, she had no reason to fear she was in safe hands, or so she thought. By around 4 a.m., Keeley and Streete left Birmingham and began the journey back to Tamworth. The streets were quiet now, and the city's neon glow faded behind them. What should have been a short, uneventful walk home would instead mark the beginning of a night that would end in tragedy, betrayal, and heartbreak. Even thinking about it now, it's hard not to ask, how did a night that started with laughter and excitement turn into a nightmare no one could have imagined? After leaving Birmingham in the early hours, Keeley and Wesley Streete began the journey back to Tamworth. The streets were quiet, the city's glow behind them, now a distant memory. What should have been a short, uneventful walk home turned into a night that would shock an entire community. Earlier that night, Keeley and her friends, Monica and Wesley, had partied until 2:40 a.m. The night was so full of laughter and music that they didn't realize how late it had become. Eventually, they took a taxi back to Tamworth, with Keeley's house only a short walk away from where they were dropped off. For safety, Monica suggested Keeley wait. But Keeley, focused on her job interview the next day, couldn't wait. She reassured Monica with words that now feel hauntingly prescient. "Don't worry. Wes will walk me home." That was the last time Monica saw Keeley alive. Keeley, trusting as ever, never imagined the danger that awaited her. She laughed and chatted as they walked, unaware that these would be her final steps. By the time the group reached Tamworth, Keeley was supposed to return to her family. But hours passed, and she never arrived home. Friends and family grew worried. Calls went unanswered, messages unread. As dawn broke, the realization set in Keeley was missing. Panic swept through her family. Her parents, already protective and loving, felt a fear that no parent should ever face. By 5:30 p.m., her father had filed a missing person report, marking the start of a desperate search. Authorities were alerted, and a search began immediately. Local police, neighbors, and friends combed the area where she was last seen, desperate for any sign of Keeley. The night that had started with excitement and laughter was now marked by anxiety, dread, and uncertainty. Even now, it's hard not to ask, how does a vibrant young woman, full of life and trust, vanish without a trace in the early hours of her 20th birthday? The answer would soon reveal a chilling betrayal, one that no one could have predicted, and one that would forever change Tamworth. As daylight broke over Tamworth, what began as worry quickly spiraled into fear. Keeley was still missing, and every passing minute felt heavier than the last. Her family, desperate for answers, retraced her steps. Messages flooded social media. Friends calling, texting, asking the same haunting question. "Has anyone seen Keeley?" Search teams were formed almost immediately. Police, neighbors, and volunteers combed through parks, alleys, and riversides. Posters went up, and local news began to cover the story of the missing 20-year-old graduate. But deep down, her father said he knew something wasn't right. Keeley would never just disappear. She was responsible, close to her family, and she had plans for her future. By the next day, the search intensified. Police questioned Wesley Streete, the last person seen with her. He claimed that after the party, he walked her part of the way home, that they parted near the telephone box, and she went the rest of the way alone. At first, it sounded believable, but as I listened to that story, one thing became clear. Streete wasn't just a killer, he was a good liar. As part of the investigation, police asked Wesley to show them the exact route they took that night. He agreed. They searched side by side, not knowing they were walking beside the very man responsible for her disappearance. For hours, they combed through the area, calling her name, checking every corner, hoping for any sign of Keeley. When nothing was found, the officers eventually let Wesley go. In fact, they even thanked him for helping with the search. But by 9 p.m. that same day, everything changed. Keeley's uncle, who had joined the search himself, stumbled upon something that would completely shift the direction of the investigation. Something that pointed straight back to Wesley Streete. By 9 p.m., just when hope was fading, Keeley's uncle made a chilling discovery. While searching near a wooded area on the outskirts of Tamworth, close to a quiet stream, he noticed something strange hidden beneath branches and leaves. At first, it looked like a pile of discarded clothes, but as he got closer, the horrifying truth hit him. It was Keeley, the joyful, kind-hearted young woman who had gone out to celebrate with friends just the night before, was gone. Her body was found partially covered, her phone and belongings nearby. The scene was heartbreaking. Within minutes, police sealed off the area. The same officers who had spent the previous day searching with Wesley Streete now realized they'd been walking beside their main suspect all along. An autopsy confirmed what everyone feared. Keeley had been sexually assaulted and murdered. The trust she placed in a friend, the one she believed would walk her home safely, had cost her everything. When investigators called Wesley back for questioning, his calm, confident tone began to crumble. He started spinning lies, one version after another. First, he said they parted ways near the telephone box. Then, he changed the story, claiming she'd gone home on her own. Later, he said she fell asleep, and he panicked. But detectives weren't buying it. When they confronted him with GPS data from his phone, everything started to fall apart. His phone showed that he had visited the crime scene 7 different times that same day. 7. The moment they told him that, Wesley went quiet, completely speechless. Then came the final blow. Police showed him CCTV footage of him and Keeley walking together at the exact time he claimed they had already parted ways. Caught in his own web of lies, Wesley had nowhere left to hide. Every version of his story crumbled. And with each lie exposed, the image of the caring friend he pretended to be faded, replaced by the truth of what he really was. Wesley, the man Keeley trusted, had betrayed her in the worst possible way. He led her down a dark, isolated path, assaulted her, and ended her life. Then he stood beside her family, acting as if he cared, even helping search for her, knowing all along what he'd done. The town of Tamworth was shattered. Candlelight vigils filled the streets. Flowers, photos, and notes piled attributes to a young woman whose kindness had touched so many. And even now, it's hard not to ask, how could someone so close, someone she trusted completely, become the source of her deepest betrayal? Because Keeley's story isn't just about tragedy, it's about trust, lies, and the darkness that can hide behind a friendly smile. After days of questioning, the walls finally began to close in on Wesley. Every lie he told was falling apart. The GPS data, the CCTV footage, the inconsistencies. He could no longer hide behind stories or sympathy. At first, he tried to stay calm, but as detectives pressed harder, Wesley started stammering. He said he was drunk that night, that he had messed up the details. He claimed he left Keeley happy and safe, but the evidence said otherwise. Then, under more pressure, Wesley changed his story again. He admitted they had gone to the park together, but this time he claimed it was consensual. He said Keeley had flirted and teased him as they walked, that things had gotten out of hand, and that he'd accidentally killed her during sex in the park. But everyone who knew Keeley knew that was a lie. Keeley and Wesley had been childhood friends. They'd grown up together, trusted each other. There had never been anything romantic between them. This was Wesley's desperate attempt to twist the story to fit the evidence. Detectives kept pushing. Why had his phone's GPS shown that he'd returned to the same spot 7 different times that day? His answer was as disturbing as it was cold. He said that after he accidentally killed Keeley, he dropped her body near the pond and then kept coming back to the scene to hide her under branches and leaves. Can you imagine that? While everyone was searching, calling her name, he was returning to the scene, covering up what he had done. When asked why he hadn't told the truth earlier, especially to Keeley's grieving parents, he said he was embarrassed and scared to tell the police. At that point, even the investigators were stunned. Some said it was the first time they'd seen a suspect show so little genuine remorse. And for a moment, I'll be honest, part of me almost believed his story. Maybe it really was an accident. But the evidence said something very different. Wesley had persuaded Keeley to walk toward the rugby club near the park, saying he wanted to smoke. But when they got there, he forced himself on her. Keeley fought back. She struggled, terrified, trying to escape. He overpowered her, held her in a chokehold, and took her life. Then, in an attempt to cover up his crime, he hid her body and went home pretending nothing had happened. This was no accident. It was a brutal act, and it was deliberate. Even before the trial began, police discovered something even darker. Keeley wasn't Wesley's first victim. Before her murder, other women had come forward who said Wesley had assaulted them too, but they had been too afraid to speak out. The trial would later reveal a pattern of abuse, manipulation, and violence that had gone unnoticed for years. When the trial began at Stafford Crown Court, the evidence spoke louder than any words he could offer. The path of his phone, the CCTV footage, the lies, the pattern. Everything pointed to one undeniable truth. Keeley's death was not an accident. When the verdict came, the courtroom was silent. Guilty. Wesley Streete was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 30 years before he could even be considered for release. The judge called him a danger to women. Outside the courtroom, Keeley's family held each other. Tears, relief, heartbreak, all mixed together. Justice had been served, but nothing could bring Keeley back. Today, in Tamworth, her memory still lives on. Friends describe her as someone who lit up every room she entered, full of warmth, laughter, and love. Every year, on September 18th, candles are lit in her honor. Keeley's story is one of heartbreak and betrayal, a story that reminds us how fragile trust can be and how evil sometimes hides behind the most familiar smile. Because sometimes, the real danger isn't a stranger in the dark. It's the person you thought you could trust to walk you home. The verdict had been read, the sentence handed down. But for Keeley's family, justice didn't feel like closure. How could it? No sentence could fill the silence she left behind the empty chair at dinner, the laughter that would never echo through their home again. In Tamworth, the town that once buzzed with her energy, life moved forward, but never the same. People who barely knew her spoke her name with tenderness, as if keeping her memory alive helped heal a little piece of the wound. Friends began organizing annual candlelight vigils, soft flames flickering against the night, photographs of Keeley smiling in the glow. Each light represented love, loss, and a plea for change. Local campaigns started, calling for better awareness around women's safety, and for people to speak up when they sense danger even from someone they think they know. Because Keeley's story wasn't just about a tragedy. It was a warning. She trusted a friend, someone she'd known since childhood, and that trust was betrayed in the most unimaginable way. Her father once said in an interview, "Keeley was the kind of person who saw the good in everyone. I just hope her story helps others see the dangers we sometimes overlook." And maybe that's what this story leaves behind, a lesson carved out of heartbreak. Wesley Streete will spend decades behind bars, but for the community he shattered, the real sentence is the memory of the what-ifs and if-onlys that echo in every parent's heart. Even now, when the streets of Tamworth grow quiet at night, her name still lingers, whispered at vigils, remembered in stories, kept alive in hearts. Because Keeley Bunker's story isn't only about how her life ended, it's about who she was, bright, trusting, hopeful, and how her light continues to shine through those who refuse to forget her. And maybe that's the hardest truth of all. Sometimes, justice is not the end. It's just the beginning of remembering.